Hey, this is Tom Ryan, the host of Welcome to the Arena. Thank you so much for listening in. At the end of the year, I usually do some kind of year-end review, maybe an outlook to next year. And I think it's been absolutely a wild year. But before I get to that, I was looking through the college football brackets. And given that I'm recording this on December 18th, and it's going to be released on January 1st, I thought I would come up with my predictions based on really no knowledge whatsoever of the teams other than watching almost every team at least once. I think Oregon is in the Final Four, best team in college football, great quarterback. I think Texas comes out of the other bracket. They're very annoyed with the loss to Georgia, so they're pissed. I think they're going to get through. Penn State seems to have an easy run, although I always have a soft spot for Boise State. So that should be interesting if they can handle Boise State's running back, who really should have gotten a second Heisman Trophy, in my opinion. And then my sleeper is Indiana, just to create some controversy. I have them taking down Georgia. Georgia's a little too overconfident, in my opinion. So anyway, that's hugely important. Good to get that out of the way. In terms of Welcome to the Arena, we've done over 150 episodes. It's been super fun to do. We did 51 podcasts in the year. I'll count January 1st, so that makes it 52, one a week. Met a lot of really interesting people, interesting companies. I just think that the capital that gets invested in this country and the companies that are working in technology or clean energy or consumer, whatever, people just have such a great go for it mentality. As bad as people feel about the US sometimes, it's just like, it's astounding. And I'm just talking to a small fraction of all the companies that are out there getting up every day and trying to move things forward. The stock market had another amazing year, but there was still a lot of things like up in the air, like what's going to happen to interest rates. Obviously, we're in an easing cycle, but it feels like the economy is doing really good. So how long will that easing cycle last? That's more of a next year issue. We're dealing with inflation still, with war all over the world, which is like super scary. And the markets seem to have shrugged that off to a degree. And then just like endless politics in 2024, I think for those people in Pennsylvania and other swing states where literally every single ad, every single day is a political ad. So I'm happy that that's over for you. In 2024, certainly the year of big tech, like NVIDIA, Apple, Tesla. Really all we talked about was AI all year. And I'm not a technologist. It seems to me we're in the first inning of all this rolling out. So it's very exciting. And we'll see what happens with the election and what that means for next year. It was really kind of the crescendo of the year. Since then, I think we've pivoted a little bit from the digitalization of information, AI, that whole conversation that dominated 2024, almost to like the digitalization of capital. And that means Bitcoin and crypto. The incoming administration has shown a lot of favorability towards that. And if any of you who are out there who did not listen to the Michael Saylor episode that came out on December 18th, you should go back in the archives and listen to it. He really is a next level thinker. It's fascinating to talk to him, really a economic historian, a technologist, and like the smartest corporate finance person I think I've ever talked to in my life. So looking out to 2025, I think what companies need to be thinking about is, number one, liquidity, balance sheet repair. That's kind of been happening in 24. And certainly if rates continue to ease, there's a lot of companies that are going to be able to refinance, get some breathing room. That would be very important. And then I think what we're starting to see is the beginnings of an IPO market. ICR has been pretty active there in the fourth quarter of 24, kind of culminating in a great transaction with Service Titan that priced in December. The bottom line is that the holding periods of a lot of private equity firms and other sponsors is coming to an end, and their limited partners need liquidity, and the market is ripping. And valuations in the public market seem to be good, certainly in certain sectors. So everything seems to be lining up where next year is going to be a year of normalization in the IPO market. I would suggest that every company that is going to go public start raising their profile, start clarifying their story and their narrative. Look, the worst thing is you go through the roadshow, you get the pricing, and you kind of feel like the entire universe of buyers kind of really didn't get it. They didn't understand the company that well. That's on management and that's on the sponsor. Beyond the data room, you really have to get out and tell a story and make sure that people really understand the business model, what you're doing, what management is all about. And the way to do that is through a digital footprint that really you're in control of and others aren't in control. That's one thing. I think the second thing is it feels with the incoming administration like anything can happen. You've got a cabinet that seems committed to innovation and or disruption, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's safe to say that things are going to change. And whether it's, food companies or companies that might experience deregulation or maybe something legislatively happens where they have more opportunity, I think companies need to be on high alert. Their communications departments need to be super sharp. And I think the other part is the world has kind of talked about this easing cycle and rates coming down. Nothing is guaranteed. The new administration is, they're talking about bringing America back through prosperity for everyone. And I think whether it's deregulation or onshoring, creating jobs, like some of that is inflationary for sure. If we were to take auto manufacturing or other kinds of manufacturing from like Mexico or China and bring it back, you're paying a higher wage. That wage is going to be passed along to consumers, and that can be inflationary, so rates may not go down. And I guess the final part of the message is it just feels like technology has officially taken over, not that it hasn't for the last 20 years, but between AI and digital capital and things like that, it just feels like we're going into another phase of economics. And, look, I think the market is telling you, certainly over the last couple of years, the market is a future indicator. And I think the market is telling you that every company is going to get more efficient. Every company is going to get smarter. Every company is going to be able to sell more of what they have. And look, at the same time, consumers are much more educated about things and much more informed, I think. And I think the companies that deliver the most value are going to win, especially if we get back into an inflationary environment, which is certainly no guarantee, but hopefully it doesn't. So anyway, a lot of exciting things to think about going into 2025. I want to thank everybody who works on this podcast. We're making a lot of progress, getting more and more people to listen, getting more interesting guests. And we had a lot of really amazing episodes in 2024. So I want to wish everybody a happy new year, prosperous new year, and onward and upward. Thank you very much. At Welcome to the Arena from ICR, we're working really hard to bring you exciting guests and great content. If you found this episode insightful, please subscribe to the show on your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. The more the show grows, the more interesting voices we can have on the podcast, and in turn, that should demystify a lot of the stakeholders around public companies and soon-to-be public companies. Thank you so much for listening.
References to specific stocks are not intended to be recommendations for specific trading behavior. Comments presented on this podcast are intended for informational and educational purposes only, and do not represent opinions or recommendations on whether to buy, sell, or hold shares of a particular stock. All investors are advised to conduct their own independent research into individual stocks before making a trading decision. In addition, investors are advised that past stock performance is no guarantee of future price performance.